Wow. This was a big week, everybody, because I recorded a meditation diary about people pleasing. I had walk number 80 yesterday, where I spoke my truth to someone that I have previously avoided for a long time due to people pleasing. And then today, I spent the entire day from 11:30 in the morning to 7 p.m. at my yoga studio, starting the day with an intention circle and breath work, where I quite literally came out of the breathwork session in tears and immediately wrote down, in 3 minutes, a piece on people pleasing. It all actually came into my body. It went from the mind to the integration on the walks to the body. This is very exciting because I think, by God, am I inventing something else? Am I inventing an integration process here? This is really exciting because I recorded for over 40 minutes, I believe, a meditation diary on people pleasing, on what it means, what does it look like, why do I think I do it, what are specific examples of me doing it, what have I done to shift out of it, using the walks, and where do I still have room to grow, right? I spoke all of that to you, to the universal it, to myself. And then the universal it said, you asked for some courage, huh? You asked for some courage. You asked for a situation to blast past people pleasing, did you, sweetheart? Let me just deliver that on a silver platter to you using the boardwalks. Oh my gosh. I used the meditation diaries to speak that opportunity into existence yesterday. Okay, now that I've explained to you the mind-blowing nature of that, I'm going to tell you about what happened on the boardwalks yesterday here in Austin, walk number 80. 8 is my lucky number, by the way, so I was very excited about that. If you're new here, the boardwalks are a weekly event that I created that are like chicken soup for the soul. They are for people who are curious, kind, and open-minded to walk 5 miles and have meaningful conversations, and maybe even life-changing conversations, of which there have been a ton. And I see it every single day, hear it every single week. So I love, love, love my walks. And yesterday was number 80. And here's what happened. Here was my opportunity to blast past people pleasing that I basically asked for 40 minutes in this diary. Wow. So we all gather Saturday 8 in the morning, and to set a scene, we meet at the coffee shop, and then we all walk across the street into this larger parking lot where everyone gets into a circle, and then I fly into the circle and I do my twirls and I do a speech for 5 minutes. And one man described it as, I have never seen someone say such strict rules in such a feminine and flowy and friendly and inviting way. So I'm very, very proud of that speech and the delivery that I've grown into, because it just feels so good. And I trust myself so much, and I have grown so much through that speech. But I do have a lot of rules. I have 5 minutes of rules in the ground rule speech, right? So yesterday we're walking across the street in a smaller group, which I call the stragglers. These are folks who are waiting to get coffee, and they kind of come over in the like separate little unit to the caravan that is like walking across the safe way using like the pedestrian signs and actually going across the street. So the straggler group goes the shortcut way, okay? So it's basically like 6 people, and Talia brought these 2 wonderful women with her for the first time, and they had never been there, and they were like, hey, what exactly is this? What are we doing here? I was like, oh, let me tell ya, ladies. So the most important thing you need to know is I'm going to ask you what you'd like to talk about for 5 miles and what you're grateful for today. And they were like, oh, how interesting. You know, we didn't bring a topic, but like, I'm really good on the fly, and like, let me ground it into myself, get my topic. And then there was a man who was near this conversation as it was happening in this like group of 7, who turns to me and is like, oh, you know, the topics are so open that me and my friends actually like push the boundaries to see like what we can get away with, and to see like, you know, how far we can push that. And that did not hit me the right way at all. I was triggered big time, because I don't know if you've been rocking with me since day one. You've heard me rant about the boardwalks, which are the love of my life and something that I am constantly thinking about, and put everything I am, my entire heart, body, and soul into it. I have hosted these walks in Austin 80 times. It takes an incredible amount of effort, care, consistency to put on this event, which has been joined at times by over 100 people. And the reason why the walks feel so good is because I care so much, and because I community manage on my rules. And when this guy said this, I just shifted. And I just to set the scene, the walk hasn't started. We're all walking to get into the circle, right? And like the big group of people is not caught up to us yet. So in the moment, this was big for me though. Instead of avoiding him or ignoring his comment, which I have honestly done with this specific person a lot of times, like basically what I will do is just not address it, because as we talked about, my emotional reaction is so strong to what he said that my fight or flight turns on, and I flight, baby. The jet plane is taking off. The tarmac, goodbye. But this time was different. This time, in large part due to these diaries, I think, and all the work I've done, I owned the feeling. In the moment, I felt, let me sink into this. I felt the anger rise. And I think I was calm, but I definitely was firm. I was not happy. I was not hee. No, I was serious. And I'll tell you something. When this voice of mine, my dark feminine side, because I got the light feminine side covered in spades. Light feminine is where I live. I define light feminine as twirling, smiling, flowers, light, bright, a girl named Rose. Hey Rose, what's up, girl? She described the walks as a ring light, and that is how I feel my energy usually is. I've got the light feminine on lock. Now the dark feminine, which don't be confused by the word dark. Dark just means there's boundaries. You own the feeling. Someone says something that makes you feel a certain way. You don't run away from that. You stand in that and you feel that feeling and you alchemize the feeling. And you connect the feeling to the words, to the throat, and you let what you're feeling be known. And let me tell you something. My dark feminine side, which I am cultivating, I'm stepping into it, which is exactly why I feel like I'm becoming powerful in my energy, is because I've abandoned that side. I've only been on the light feminine side, which is what made me a people pleaser. The dark feminine is the kind of energy that I explained the other day, where I walked into the Chipotle and instead of avoiding eye contact because I was scared with the construction workers, I looked at every single one right in the eye. And then when one of them came up to me and asked me on a date, I just said, no, thank you. I'm so flattered, but I'm okay. That is the dark feminine. When I am in that energy, which I'm cultivating actively in moments exactly like this, I literally feel the tectonic plates shift under my feet. And this is why I think that I have not leaned into this energy. It scares me. I'll just be honest with you. It scares me sometimes. Because when I feel the feeling and actually put words to it, I can literally see in the person's face the fear of God sometimes, especially men. Like because I'm usually so light and I'm usually a fairy, when you see that other side of me, when you see the dark feminine come out, it'll make you feel something. When I have been in dynamics with like romantic partners or friends or at my job, but I'll just go with romantic partners, where I felt safe to show this side, I had a partner tell me once, I thank God every day that you are a good person, because if you were a bad person, you could take over the world and bend it to your will in the moments where you speak like that. That's why I'm a little afraid of my own power when this happens, because I feel the emotions and I can, if I put words to that emotion, I could have, I'm not trying to get too crazy here, but like, I can bend will. I don't even really know how to put the words to this yet, but it is deeply powerful when I actually do it. It overwhelms me, which is probably why I avoid it. I literally avoid my own power. But back to the moment. So he turns to me and says, oh, actually we push the open topic rule. And we try to see what we can get away with. And it's like, kind of fun to like, see how far we can push it. And then I look over and I'm going to try to remember exactly what I said, but this was very emotional for me because I owned the feeling. I owned it. And so I kind of black out when this happens a little bit. And I was just like, whoo, it gives me little chills to think about this. So he says this, and I look at him, and I go, If you're doing that with bad intentions, I will not have that on my walk. You will not disrespect the energy of my space. I'd like you to give me the names of anyone who you know who is doing that, because I will ask them to not join us again. And then I literally, after that moment, the group joined and I did my speech and I twirled around. Ah, yeah, yo, baby. So, because that's so rare, it's not, I'm gonna speak into existence. I own my feeling effortlessly. Moments like that aren't rare anymore. I'm able to set strong boundaries and enforce them with conviction, with a fierceness. If tectonic plates shift under my feet when I speak my truth, then so be it. They needed to. Because I'm not bending my will to someone else. I am not prioritizing what somebody else wants over what I want. It's my truth. This is my space. This is my event. If you want to be in my space, you will hear my truth. That's what I'm speaking into existence. So anywho, this happens. I'm on like a little bit of a buzz after this because I'm like, holy shit. I said it after avoiding saying something like this to this specific guy for a while. I felt this sense of relief, like, oh my gosh, like I've done it. I did it, oh my gosh, right? It was so almost exciting, but also I was like having an internal battle where my people pleaser comes in and I'm like, oh, like, was that okay? Like, did I hurt his feelings? And then I'm like, no. You said what you wanted to say. Stop that. Get that out. This is your space. You said what you wanted to say. So I'm literally going in my head back and forth between these two narratives. I do the speech. Ooh, rah, rah. We start walking. And then he finds me on the walk pretty quickly, like within the first 10 minutes. And I was already in a conversation with a lovely woman who was there for the first time, but he came in and was like, hey, I think I triggered you with what I said back there, and I just wanted to clear the air and talk about it. Because I don't want you to feel that I'm disrespecting the space, and I have the utmost respect for what you're doing, which was very kind and sweet, and I appreciated that comment. This is somebody who has joined multiple times, and this is why this has gone on so long. He started joining before the ground rules existed. So in my mind, he was almost grandfathered in to the chaotic version of the walks that didn't have rules. And I find it very, very difficult to enforce my rules. Like when someone new joins and breaks my rules, I have no hesitation on enforcing them. But with this specific person, there is so much history there and confusing moments. And let me try to actually understand this as I'm speaking. Why is it hard for me to speak my truth to this person? Because the moments where I felt disrespected happened before I had the rules. And then he stopped joining for a while and then returned. And then the rules existed. And there was actually a moment where he had approached me, I think the very first time he joined, and then literally it was like, oh, there's a speech with rules now. And he had asked me on the walk, what inspired the rules. I honestly should have said something right then. But I have these people-pleasing tendencies that I've been working through. And they're, what's deeper? Can you help me find what's deeper? Why can't I speak? Why didn't I speak it? Because I didn't feel emotionally safe. Why didn't I feel emotionally safe? It's the tone. It's the tone. It's the delivery of what he says. Not everything he says, but there have been multiple instances where he said something that really hurt my feelings. And I don't think that's his intent. But let me feel it. Let me feel it. Show it to me. Help me understand, what is the emotion? It's sadness. I feel disrespected. I feel undermined. I feel belittled. Yes, that's it. I feel belittled. And here's the thing. I don't think he's doing this on purpose. But there is something about the way in the conversations I've had with him that he will say certain things that really digs at me. I'm very sensitive to passive aggressive energy and passive aggressive tone. It's the one thing that really triggers me. And when I feel that somebody is saying, can you help me find it? Here's what it is. It's indirectness. So it's when somebody wants to say there's an emotion that they're not actually expressing. So instead of saying what they actually want to say, they will say something else that actually stings you. That's like designed to hurt you because they're hurt. They are hurt underneath it. But they don't want to like own that feeling of like, hey, let me give you an example. Here's an example. Instead of saying, let's say that this person noticed that I would avoid them. Let's just say they noticed that. Instead of them coming to me and say, hey, Elle, I noticed that you avoid me and I would like to talk about it. This is how it would come through. The walk is going on. I'm in a conversation. This person comes into the conversation, and then after a few minutes, I will leave the conversation, which is natural for the walk. But this person will make a comment like, oh, like leaving while I was talking. Great. And then it literally makes me want to avoid them even more. Because I don't feel safe around people who don't say what they mean. Very ironic, because I was a people pleaser for so long. Holy shit. Whoa. 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 That's big. I don't feel safe around people who don't say what they mean. I'm not passive aggressive. I say nothing. Oh, thank you. I say nothing. That's the difference. In the past, a past version of me, a people-pleasing version of me, would create emotional unsafety in people because I didn't say the thing. Yes, because I would avoid. Because I was afraid, I was scared I wouldn't own the feeling. So instead of, let me use the example I just told you. When he said that thing that made me feel disrespected and triggered me about, oh, we use the open topic rule as like a, we push it. We see how far we can take it. We see what we can get away with. A past version of me would pretend not to hear that and not say anything. So there's two different ways that emotional, that like avoidant, indirect hurt behavior expresses. You either avoid and say nothing, or you're passive aggressive. I am not passive aggressive. Oh my God. He triggers me because he does the same thing I do in a different way. Oh my God, I see the part of myself I don't like in him. Oh my God, I'm shaking. That's big. I never understood why he triggered me so much. Oh, because it's a mirror. Because when I'm around him, I feel him not saying the truth, and it makes me really anxious. And I don't know how to operate in this space with him. So he is being indirect by making these passive aggressive comments that hurt my feelings. And then I return that by being direct. Oh my God, my chest is so red. Holy crap. I'm literally overheating, like with these insights. Oh my gosh. And then I respond with my avoidance by saying nothing. And we do a dance, an unholy dance. And we just keep triggering each other because no one's saying the thing. This is so big. I could never put my finger on why I avoided him. It's because I saw a part of myself that it was expressed differently than me. That's why I couldn't see it. But it's the same. It's the same. It's the same avoidance. Mine is silence and his is passive aggressiveness. Oh my gosh. You want to know what makes this even more wild? And then I'm actually going to finish the story, but I have my journal here with me, okay? I went to, like I told you, I spent the whole day at this yoga studio. After this breathwork session that we did, where I cried, I saw this moment from yesterday on the walk. I replayed it. I even remembered multiple other times where I've abandoned myself to people please for someone else, or when I've pretended not to hear things that bothered me, or I didn't speak to it. I didn't speak my truth. Like there was this one time in college, I used to take a Greyhound bus between Gainesville, where I went to school, and South Florida, where I'm from. There was this one time that a guy asked to sit next to me, and I didn't want to sit next to him, but I just let it happen because I was a people pleaser. And we talked, which I did not want to do, the entire drive, which was 4 hours. And then afterwards, I remember feeling so exhausted, and I didn't even want to be having him sit next to me, let alone have that conversation, but I betrayed myself, right? And then I went even further by talking to him for 4 hours, very locked in. And you all know me, I'm a good conversationalist. I'm very intense, and I'm a captive audience, and I ask great questions. I think I'm a delight to talk to. So this guy, I'm just gonna say this because you'll see, he basically fell in love with me in this 4-hour bus ride. And then when we got off, he was like, oh, I need your contact information. And I was terrified because I did not like this guy. I did not even get good energy from him. I wanted to avoid him. I did not feel safe. He was a student, so it wasn't weird, but I just didn't want to. And what did I do? I gave him my name so that he could add me on Facebook. And then for the next 4 years, he messaged me on Facebook on a near daily basis, digitally stalking me. Yeah. And I buried that, which at some points became very scary because we went to school on the same campus, and I was a very visible person at my university, and I was an RA who lived in a dorm because I was an RA, and people knew where I lived. That wasn't the first stalker I had, but anyway, we don't have to talk about that. We'll save that for another diary. The fun times of Elle's life. Okay, but this guy knew, he knew where to find me, and I would have to see him sometime. So anyway, long story short, I thought of that in the breathwork session. I thought of all the moments that I people pleased and betrayed myself and what I wanted, and didn't speak from that dark feminine power of this is what would have solved it. on the Greyhound bus, if he said, hey, can I sit next to you? I'd say, actually, I really prefer to sit by myself. I'm going to do some reading and some writing, and I could really use the space. If I had just owned the feeling and said that, I would have avoided years of pain and anxiety. It's sad to think about, actually. It's really sad. It like kind of brings a tear to my eye to think about how much anxiety I've caused myself by people pleasing. It's really sad. And I understand why you do it. You're just doing your best and you're trying to keep yourself safe. But this is doing the opposite, and you need to see that. You see that now. I know you do. Because if you just own it, it's when you don't own it that it gets way worse. It's when you don't own it and you say nothing, which brings me to why I'm holding this. My default is to avoid and say nothing. So with the guy on the Greyhound bus, all of those messages, I didn't answer. When I do this, when I am in this pattern, especially with men, I avoid and I say nothing. And then they fill my silence with their motive, their interpretation, their story. Because I never let them hear my story. That's not their fault. It's not even really my fault. Well, I take ownership over the fact that it's my silence and I'm letting someone else fill it. Which brings me to this. So I was sobbing in this breathwork session because I clicked all of this together. Like what I'm telling you about me talking about people pleasing in these diaries for 40 minutes and then running into a moment where I actually spoke my truth to somebody who I've avoided speaking the truth to for a long time. And then actually having it sink into my body during the breathwork session and have all of these past memories converge and create a kaleidoscope. And I felt it click. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is it. Right afterwards, they said, pick up your journal and write whatever came to your mind. And I wrote this in like 3 minutes with this pen, really fast. This came straight from the heart. I thought my silence kept me safe. I thought saying nothing meant that I was saying everything. But silence is not a yes. Silence is not a no. Silence is the most powerful communication tool, but you can't use it to speak for you, to stand up for you, to say yes, to say no, to say I am uncomfortable, to say I don't like this, to say stop, to say I deserve better, to say I won't tolerate this, to say I want to leave, to say I want you, to say I love you, to say I am the most loving, kind, curious, valuable woman in the world and I deserve to be treated that way. My silence speaks volumes, but I can't let other people guess at what my silence is trying to tell them. If I don't fill my silence with words that reflect my heartfelt desires, other people will fill my silence with their heartfelt desires. I reclaim my silence. I reclaim what fills it. I wrote that in 3 minutes. Like, it came to me so strongly. You know, it's like, I realize what I've done. Wow. I realized. And like the hard part, I think why I'm getting emotional is like, I have so much empathy for myself of why I was doing it. I was just afraid, you know? It was so hard for me. I say this in the past tense because I want to leave this behind. It was so hard for me to match my emotion with my words for a long time because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. When I would be honest and when I would speak the truth in that way, I would see the reaction in the person's face, and it would really like hurt me. You know, I'm emotional, I'm sensitive, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, I don't want to be that person, you know, like like I want to make everyone happy, but I can't be everything to everyone. No one can. It's not my responsibility to make you happy, but I was taught that. That's what I knew, you know. Because if I make everyone happy, when I was like a little, you know, when I was in school, when I was in high school, when I was in college, when I was in my first job, if I can make everyone happy, then everyone likes me and I don't feel pain. No one wants to hurt me. If everyone likes me, you don't hurt someone you're happy with. You hurt yourself. Yeah, you hurt your fucking self. That's crazy. Wow. You try to make everyone happy and you make yourself unhappy. How? Gosh. You know, this reminds me of something. My friend Veronica, a couple months ago, we're in her car, and she was like, you know, I've never told you this, but I think it could help you. When you first joined Facebook, because we were on the same team, we worked very closely together. When you first joined Facebook, I remember looking you up when we got word that you were going to be on our team, and I just thought you were the coolest person. I was so excited. And I remember your profile and I remember your writings, and I was just like, wow, like this is an expressive person. Like she has this Humans If You Left project, like must be so in touch with her emotions. And then she said, you joined our team and we did this exercise where you got a slide, like a presentation slide, where you had to put things that represented you, basically you in a slide. And one of the pictures that I chose to represent me was this photo of me with all of these sunshine door tags from when I was an RA. Me and my mom and my sister used to like use the Cricut, which if you're a crafty person, you know what the Cricut is. It's basically like this machine that cuts out paper in all these elaborate ways. And I made all these little sunshines. And I would always take like an artistic photo, because you guys know I was a photojournalist, and this semester I had these really fancy external lights, and so I set them up, and then I like glued all the sunshines on like this little piece of background paper, and then I did this like jumping photo shoot where I was like holding one of the suns, and I really wanted to get like my curly hair like jumping in the air, kind of like an old school commercial, and it turned out really cute. But I used that photo in my slide, and she said, I remember you saying something like, I chose this photo because it's the perfect representation of me. I'm always happy. And she said something about you saying that didn't sit right with me, because it made you feel really unapproachable. It made you feel really unrelatable. And I remember feeling like disappointed, because I was like, wait, she's always happy. You can't trust someone who's always happy. And this is coming to me right now. Thank you. And I understand what she meant now. She was telling me this because I think I asked her, oh, yeah. Yeah, wow. Last year, a guy who joined the walks regularly uh, really ripped into me one day and gave me like a ton of feedback on me. And he said a lot of things. He talked for like an hour, and I just listened, and it really hurt my feelings. I was very sensitive back then, and I was trying my best, but I was very sensitive, and he said a bunch of things about how he saw me, and he was basically implying that I was fake. And I remember going to Veronica because she knows me so well, and I was like, Vero, am I fake? Like, you can tell me, am I fake? Am I fake? Like, just tell me straight. Like, how could he think that? Right? Like, I was so blown away. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm being fake. And she told me that in response. She was like, I had a distrust for you in the beginning. And then over time, I realized how awesome you are and how, I gave you a chance. And she was like, I just noticed you kept trying with me. And because I kind of wanted to avoid you because I felt a little bit of a mistrust around you. And she's like, I just remember you kept asking me about my family and about my weekend, and you actually really cared. And, you weren't just bullshitting. It's like you actually wanted to get to know me and wanted to bond and have like little inside jokes. And she's like, that just meant a lot to me. And when I actually gave you a chance, I was like, oh my gosh, she's awesome. And your consistency overrode the small part of me that felt like you were not couldn't be trusted or felt fake, or felt like, oh, this person's always happy. Like, what? Who says that? So interesting how like one small line, one 2-minute moment can fundamentally shape like your level of trust for someone. And that's what this whole thing comes down to, is psychological safety. People will not feel safe around you if you are indirect in your communication. That's what it comes down to. When I am avoidant, and here's the interesting nuance about mine. Mine is more difficult because I say nothing. When you say nothing, people don't usually avoid you. They try to go harder at you. That's what I found in my life. Is because I say nothing. Like I wrote, people try to fill my silence. They try to understand what the silence means. And God bless them. I understand now, of course. Now. Thank you. I understand why. Because it's like, what's happening here? Like I actually, now that I'm speaking about this, I have a lot of empathy for why. I mean, I'd probably do the same thing. If I was around somebody and I'm saying things or I'm making like bids for connection and they're just saying nothing. It's like, okay, I'm not getting a no. I'm not getting a yes. I'm getting a question mark. Like, let me try to make the question mark a period or an exclamation point. And I won't do it. That's what's wild. I will not turn my own silence into anything else. I won't turn it into a period or an exclamation point. I leave it at a question mark, and that's why I continue to create more of what I don't want. Wow, this is big. This is big. Of the 2 treatments of avoidance, there may be more, but these are just the 2 that are coming to me right now. Avoidance are either silent or indirect, and what they do say is passive aggressive. Underneath passive aggressiveness is contempt. Contempt is the number one relationship killer emotion. I believe Brene Brown said that in her research. Highly recommend watching Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown on HBO. One of my favorite series. It like takes every emotion and distills it down into like, what is anguish, what is grief, what is contempt, and examples of it. It's life-changing. It's informed a lot of how I show up. But anyway, back to contempt. This is why I'm so sensitive. I think anybody is, honestly. No one likes passive aggressiveness. If you're a wounded person, you may try to convince yourself that you like it. You know, like, oh, I'm fluent in sarcasm. That's a yikes for me, because being fluent in sarcasm means you don't know how to be a direct communicator. That means you want to say something and you're not saying it. You're going to make a joke about something that you actually really care about instead of just saying, hey, that hurt my feelings. You're going to actually dig at the person you're with. I do not do well with sarcasm or passive aggressiveness. It is like, it is a deal breaker. I run. I am very sensitive. I mean, you guys have seen, you know, I'm very sensitive. I do not do well with that energy. It hurts my feelings very profoundly. Wow. So then, let me just round this out. This wild day of signs. Today, I have this epiphany. Write this down in my journal. And then I go into my next class, which was called Trigger Point Yin. That was just a deep stretching, using lacrosse balls to like target certain muscles and deep release. So that one was just a reset. Perfect. The next class was a sound bath. I'm like really feeling into and integrating and like using the frequencies around me to like make this click. And then the next class was transcendental meditation, meaning that we were chanting this Sanskrit mantra, the Maha mantra, which is like the grand mantra that contains all the mantras. So we're chanting that 108 times, which is just amazing. And at the end of that session, she says, come up to the front of the room and pull a card. This is my surrender deck. So every card has something that you should surrender. I pull the card, and I'm very intentional about this. I will actually like stand and like really feel into the cards and like pick the one that feels like I feel a charge towards, like it almost feels hot as I hover over it. I pick up this card. Of over 200 cards, the card says, surrender people pleasing. You cannot make this stuff up. After my big insight hours before was on people pleasing, I even wrote in a text to Danny and Talia like a small summary of like, I had this huge insight around my silence and people pleasing. And then an hour later, I pull of a 200 card deck, surrender people pleasing. Are you kidding me? Holy God, you cannot make this stuff up. Just incredible. Wow. And it said something, the message was like, you can't sacrifice your truth to make others feel comfortable or happy. Oh my gosh. So this is, wow, whoa. Is this the longest ever? This is a big one. So let me round out the story real fast and then I'll go. So he ends up coming and finding me on the walk itself, as I'm walking with a newcomer, and was like, hey, I want to, I think I triggered you and I want to address it. And I mean no disrespect. And like, I have utmost respect for what you do in this space. And I'm on this like newfound high of like matching my emotion to my words, which felt very exciting, but it was also very overwhelming because like you need to practice this, right? So like I had my big moment, but I was also a little bit like jarred by it. So I just did my best in the moment, and I just tried to like find more words and explain, and was like, you know, I put a tremendous amount of love and care into this event, and it's very important to me that the energetics of the space feel welcoming and that everyone is following the intention. And to know that anyone is coming into my space and intentionally choosing topics to undermine the event or make fun of it or to see what they can get away with is something that I just will not tolerate. And it doesn't matter how many times someone has joined. It doesn't matter who it is. No, there would be no exception for this. Like, I will ask you not to come back. And that's how I feel. And I think that this is my last learning I'll leave with you. I think why I had such an emotional reaction to saying this was because this disrespectful behavior that's hurt my feelings with this person and actually another guy who's his friend has been festering because I haven't addressed it. And the emotional current was running through me of like the weight of all of the things I had not addressed felt so heavy. And then it comes out in your energy when something is heavy. And when it feels light is when they come and they break one of my rules, and I'm able to just walk up to them and say, hey, I'd really appreciate it if, you weren't on your phone in the intro circle, or if you weren't having side conversations, or I noticed you didn't bring a topic today, and if you want to join us again, you will need to bring a topic, or I'll ask you not to join us and I can help you find another community. That's very easy for me to say when it's somebody who there's not history with, right? But I need to treat everybody equally. And that means I can't avoid anyone. I will not avoid anyone anymore. The behavior has bothered me for a long time, and it's time for me to speak it. And I did. I took a first step towards that. I'm very proud of myself. I probably could have been softer in my delivery. I didn't scream. I wasn't loud, but I was triggered. So my tone was my mom likes to call it the scorpion stinger, because I am a Scorpio. I have like a tremendous amount of Scorpio in my chart. And I can be when that comes out, it's a scary, a little scary, and a little shocking. And it's like, it's a sting. It's a sting. Even though I try really hard not to make it, but I'm learning, I'm not perfect. I'm trying to, but it was heavy for me, and that's why it stung. Because if I had been saying this the whole time, if I had addressed these moments in the moment, going back to 2022, it would feel light. It would not feel heavy, and it would not have stung for me to say it, and it would not have felt like a sting to receive it. It's when you don't address it that it builds up, and then when you finally let it out, when it boils up and you let it out, which only happened, by the way, now that I'm realizing this, because he made a comment directly addressing something I already knew. I already could tell I'm very observant, right? Especially with my walks. I already knew that he and his friend would bring joke topics because it bothers me tremendously. And I have never said anything about it because of everything we've discussed. So when he admitted it to my face, I went for it. I was like, oh my God, he gave me an in. I'm just trying to share with you exactly what was going through. It really felt like exactly like what I just did. It was like, finally he said the quiet part out loud, and now I can go there. He opened the door, which I will not do from now on, because I should not need to rely on someone else opening the door for me to say my piece. But we're learning and growing. That is why this happened that way. Wow. But how you solve this is you have to address it when it's happening, in not the you have to address it the first time. You cannot let it fester. You let it fester, it becomes heavy, and then you boil over, and then you sting, and the person gets stung. And you live in anxiety for years. You live in this state of like, I don't like this reality and I want to avoid it at all costs. Why have I been living in that reality for as long as I have? Because I have never said the truth until yesterday. Wow. Okay. God bless. This was a big one. Thank you for being here. Holy, holy nubs. Thank you for giving me everything you gave me in this one. Wow, this is one I will not forget. Thank you for witnessing that. I love you so much. I feel so much better. I'm so grateful for my ability to see all of this. Thank you for showing me everything you showed me. I hope this helps someone. This one felt big. I love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. If you made it through this whole thing. Wow. Longest one on record. I love you so much. Talk to you soon. Love you. Bye. Here's to growth.